So is it neuroprotective? Is it protecting the brain cells that you still have producing dopamine? Or is it just improving how you feel? Dr. Tajiri in Japan did a study, I think that came out in January of last year. And it was called Exercise Exerts Neuroprotective Effects on PD models of rats. So what he did is he took these poor rats and he ran them on treadmills. He said 11 miles per hour. I don't really see how that's possible. But apparently 11 miles per hour.
Motorized.
Yeah, maybe on a treadmill, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And what he found was that when he then asked these rats to perform certain tasks, they actually did better compared to controls. And these tasks were indicative of Parkinson's symptoms. He also, after the rats were sacrificed, looked at the brains of the rats. And they had more dopamine-producing cells compared to people that didn't exercise. So that's a huge thing. That means that in his study, he found that exercise is neuroprotective. So maybe that's a little bit more incentive to exercise. Now, a frequent question that I always get is what kind of exercise? And there it becomes a little bit more muddled. Recently, Dr. Lisa Schulman of the University of Maryland concluded a 4-year study. And she was looking to see what kind of exercise would improve gait and mobility in Parkinson's disease. She had 3 groups of patients. One group did sort of, I guess, maximum intensity work. They walked on a treadmill at a maximum incline at maximal speed that they could handle. The second group walked at a casual pace on a treadmill at no incline. And the third group didn't walk. They did strength training and flexibility exercises. And what she actually found was that walking at a comfortable pace, but for a longer duration, resulted in the most consistent improvements in speed and mobility. Which is counterintuitive. One would think that it would be the people that were, working their butts off on the treadmill. But yeah, so that's what her study found. But that's not so easy. In 2009, there was a big biking study that came out that some of you might be aware of. And they talked about forced exercise versus voluntary exercise. Forced exercise does not mean exercising with a gun to your head. Forced exercise means exercising at a speed with which you would not normally exercise at had you been given the choice. So what he did was he had, again, 3 groups. He had a control group as well. So the one group exercised on a tandem bike with a trainer in the front, and they exercised at a much higher speed than you would normally pedal at. The voluntary exercise group pedaled at their own comfort, really. And what he found was that aerobic fitness was improved for both groups. That makes sense. But he also found that motor scores that would reflect Parkinson's symptoms improved significantly in the forced exercise group compared to the voluntary exercise group. And that their ability to do tasks that required grasping, they had improvement in their rigidity and movement or bradykinesia. All these things improved in the forced exercise group, not the voluntary exercise group as much. They did improve to some extent, but not as much. And these improvements actually lasted 4 weeks after the study was concluded, and they weren't doing it anymore. So, conflicting results, right? But that having been said, the most important thing is to get moving. Really, that really, in my opinion, is the bottom line. Whatever, first get cleared by your physician to make sure there aren't any other heart issues, or other, balance issues, etc. That's occurring. But really, exercise regularly. Be realistic in your exercise goals. You don't have to run the New York Marathon or the Toronto Marathon. You might just need to get out every day. Although I know several people with Parkinson's that are running in the New York Marathon, which boggles my mind. I couldn't do it before I had Parkinson's, let alone after. Make sure it's physically challenging. Include different types of exercise. That's important not just from an interest point of view, but to cover all of the aspects with your aerobic fitness and your mobility. So cardiovascular exercise, 30 minutes 3 times per week is recommended. Strength training, 30 minutes 3 times per week. Stretching and flexibility exercises daily. That's the ideal. If you can manage to do that, you're well ahead. Be consistent, meaning, because what ends up happening is people exercise really religiously and then they'll stop. But when you stop, when you go back to exercise, you're sometimes back at square one. And do what you enjoy. It's all about keeping your interest up. So walk, bike, swim. Swimming is excellent. Zumba, dance, whatever piques your interest, that's what you should do. Because that's also, something about Parkinson's and life in general. You need to do what you enjoy. So the last topic I just want to briefly talk about is sleep. We broached the subject a little bit earlier. So sleep disorder is the bane of my existence. It takes me a long time to fall asleep, and then I wake up very early, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, kind of early. So my closets are very well organized, and my paperwork is done, but I'm a bit of a grump. So that's sleep maintenance insomnia. There's also the REM behavior disorder, which I briefly talked to you about, which again is actually very significant for bed partners. I mean, people can act out their dreams in sometimes a very aggressive way, and it can cause injury to the bed part, to the person sleeping next to you. Restless leg syndrome, periodic movement disorder is kind of related to restless leg in some way. Sleep apnea, again, and excessive daytime sleepiness. And this isn't just when you're attending a boring lecture and someone rambling on. This can happen when you're driving, and that's a huge issue. And that can be due to a number of reasons. Not getting enough sleep, as well as sometimes some medications can cause somnolence or sleepiness. So what can you do? I mean, definitely talk to your specialist about it, because there are some medication adjustments that can be made, just even with the medications that you're taking, moving them around if possible, and also other medications that can actually help you to sleep. But these are just some general sleep rules. Set a regular time for rising and going to bed. Even if you didn't fall asleep until 2, if you're going to get up at 8 normally, get up at 8 normally, and try and last until bedtime again. Because what ends up happening is we don't tend to do that. We tend to, can't fall asleep until 2, we sleep until 10 one day, and then we're back and trying to sleep until 8. It just messes it up. So try and set regular times. Appropriate lighting. So if you're napping during the day, don't make it dark. Keep it light, because your body will then be fooled into, you keep it dark, it screws up your internal clock, I guess, so to speak. Use the bedroom for sleep. So that means basically try and avoid watching TV in your bedroom, try and avoid reading books in your bedroom, just try and make it a sanctuary for sleep. Avoiding alcohol, caffeine, tobacco late in the day is really important. Restricting liquid intake prior to bed, as the urologist would attest to, decreases the times you'll wake up to go to the bathroom. And physical aids. Physical aids can be something as simple as silk sheets or satin sheets. It makes turning over a lot easier if you have something slippery that you have to slide on. And a bedside bar is another thing. When my own dad, who had Parkinson's, was having difficulty turning in his bed, just a simple thing like a bedside bar that he could grasp to turn over and get up out of bed when he had to go to the bathroom because he wasn't restricting his liquids, was helpful.
Doctor, is there any particular medication, sleeping aid that's compatible with Parkinson's medication that you're aware of?
Yeah, there is. The tricyclic antidepressants, we use them now for other things, obviously. So like amitriptyline and nortriptyline can be used at low doses, can be used at bedtime. That's probably the most common one. Also Neurontin or gabapentin can be used. It has side effect of sleepiness.
That's Lyrica.
Sorry?
The last one again?
Neurontin.
Sorry.
Yeah. So Neurontin, again, is anti-epileptic, but it works very well for sleep disorder and Parkinson's as well. And then you have your basic benzodiazepines, but I'm not a big fan because it's not just addictive potential, but your body tends to get used to them. You have to accelerate the doses. It can cause a lot of morning sleepiness too, depending on how long the medication acts. So, but a small dose of a tricyclic antidepressant is sometimes very good. So I'm just going to hope I didn't overwhelm you or underwhelm you this evening, but I just want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. At some point, you really do have to abandon your fear of the future in order to begin living your present well with this disease. And that was a difficult lesson for me, but I eventually caught on to that. And be rest assured that there are lots of people out there that are working diligently on our behalf to make sure that the future is really not one to be feared, but one of promising new treatments and ultimately a cure. And of that I'm confident. No one really knows what life will bring. That's the ultimate truth. But I have had a glimpse into the future of what the future might hold for me, but I'm ready to face it head on, and I hope you all are as well. Just to paraphrase Phillips Brooke, who's an American clergyman, he says, "Don't pray for an easy life, pray to be a strong person." And I wake up to that every day. Thank you.